Thank you very much, and thank you very much for being here. To start with, I suggest that we all close our eyes and picture Claire Underwood, this powerful woman out of House of Cards. Think of Rebecca, also, in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, this brilliant lawyer craving for love, or for the French natives who know Andrea in 10%, this brilliant woman trying to promote stars in the star system in France, in the cinema. Where do these characters come from? How have they emerged? These have been a few examples only, but you have many, many, many. How much did the showrunners have to struggle to make them come to life? This is the question we're going to try and figure out today with 4 guests, and please welcome them. Are the showrunners behind these fantastic female characters that are coming to life and which have come to life in these 10 last years? We have 4 guests who are Fleur Pellerin, president of CANNESERIES, former French Minister of Culture and founder of Corelia Capital, which finances startups. And, of course, we'll say it again, you are the president of CANNESERIES. Next to you, Audrey Fouché, author. You wrote several episodes of The Borgia with Tom Fontana, and you co-wrote The Returned. You are currently a showrunner of the new French Netflix series Osmosis, and you were in the jury of the CANNESERIES Festival. You know who the prize winners are, and you don't want to tell us now. With us also, Teresa Fernández-Valdés. You're a Spanish producer. You're the showrunner at Bambú Productions in Spain. Last year you produced Las Chicas del Cable, the Cable Girls for Netflix. You also produced The Refugees, Velvet, Grand Hotel, Under Suspicion, Vintage, Hispania. The list is quite long, so I won't say them all. And you were awarded a MIPTV prize a few minutes ago, so well done. Thank you. Pascal Breton, now you are the only man on this panel. You were brave enough to come and join us. Thank you for that.
I confirm.
You're a French producer. You've created the first French Netflix original series, Marseille, and before that, you were known for Sous le Soleil, and you left your médaille d'honneur from the MIPTV next door, but you got that prize and you deserve it for your international work at the moment. So let's start with the global picture. Audrey Fouché, you have identified female showrunners around the world on the international scene, and you have identified that a lot of them are American and often not French.
Yeah. For example, I'm a big fan of Jill Soloway's works, and she recently did Transparent. I'm sure you're all well aware of that show. And the reason why there are more Americans is that they are trained to become showrunners. I think she worked on 6 Feet Under, and she learned along the way to become a showrunner, and she had access to that position of power, which is really the topic we are discussing here. And I'm a big fan of her work. She's daring, she's bold, her writing is very original, she's very creative. She's really a role model for me, yeah.
Fleur Pellerin, have you identified showrunners that you follow, that you like, that you enjoy watching?
Well, I follow the work of Audrey, of course, but and I'm probably more sensitive to the French showrunners. I think Anne Landois is a very famous in France and is a good role model because she wrote and she created Engrenage, which is a nice crime TV series with maybe 5 or 6 seasons, I think. But it's true that we have an issue, I think, in France about the training, not only of women screenwriters, but of screenwriters, and it's definitely something we need to work on.
We will focus on that maybe a bit later. Teresa, have you identified showrunners that you admire, that you believe are powerful, apart from yourself?
In this case, I also am following the same series that they are mentioning. Also, of course, the showrunner of The Affair, I think that changed the rules, also given to us to the 2 points of view different. And also I want to add to the list of showrunners, also producers with the sensitive, female producers with the sensitive to give voices, also to stories about women, like in the case of the actress Renee Winston.
Sorry.
Okay. The actress of Big Little Lies.
Yeah.
He produced the show, but pushing the idea and knowing very well what she wanted to tell. So it was a producer involved also in content. She was not the writer, but she was involved on the show and pushing, because I have this experience also before in my career, being producer beside Ramon, that he was the creator, and being showrunner.
So Ramon, let's precise, is your husband and your partner, professional partner.
Yeah, so my career started as producer because I was like covering the part that she was not controlling, that it was like the managing. He was involved only in the creative side, but after 5 years working together and creating all the time together, finally I decided to write with him also, and now I'm a pure showrunner.
Audrey, do you believe it is difficult for you to be a showrunner, a full-power showrunner in France? Have you met difficulties?
I'm only starting, so I will be very modest on that. I think it's difficult. I think, yes, Fleur was right. We have Anne Landois, who really embodies what a showrunner is in France, what a female showrunner is. But actually, depending on, even if we leave out the question of women, there are very few showrunners, proper showrunners in France. And it's maybe trickier for women because people are not used to see them in position of power. So it's hard for men, but it's harder for women because we need to affirm ourselves a little bit harder. But I'm very optimistic. I think it's changing now.
And there's a certain hierarchy in France with directors who are still men most of the time and quite powerful.
Yeah, because it's an heritage from the auteur theory in cinema. So we had that
what is the author theory?
It was, in the 60s with the film of François Truffaut, etc., etc. The idea that screenwriters were not as important as directors, and that the directors had the vision for the film. And we can really argue that. And so in France, for a very long time, we had, and the way it worked, it was that screenwriters, TV writers would produce scripts, and that would not be associated with the rest of the process. So they would be cut out from all the decisions that would lead to the final product. And what we are trying to make to change is to have that voice, that vision of the creator of the show be recognized.
Let's say that Audrey is currently writing Osmosis, and it's the story of a woman who gets her idea pinched by her brother. So did you get that inspiration from real life?
I can't say a lot about that. No, there are elements of the show I'm writing that but not as a writer, but as a woman in general, you know, growing up, and it's difficult to, or maybe it's me, to really stand out for ourselves, to stand up and really get in those positions. So yeah, it's a catharsis in my show, you know.
Pascal Breton, is there a problem with hierarchy in French creation?
There is a problem everywhere. There is even more problem in France, of course, because we have very few showrunners in France. Eric Rochon is one of them. He did with, when he did, he's still doing, he's shooting now Le Bureau des Légendes. His number 2 writer, who could really have been the new showrunner of the show, is a woman, Camille Castelnau. So there are some, but very few. I'm working on Jeanne d'Arc with a main writer who is a woman, and I would love to find the director that is a woman as well, because I think we need that feel on Jeanne d'Arc. I'm working also on Brigitte Bardot with Danielle Thompson, who is a famous director and writer, so she will be the showrunner. She's more coming from the movie business, of course. But apart from that, we have a big problem, yes, well, first, in the universities, we have very few universities and very few places where we can really learn, but most of it is what Audrey did and what every writing group should have, which is half of the writers should be new, and of course, half of them should be women.
Is there a problem with the number of female directors?
Yes, also in France and in Europe there are more and more females. There was a generation, especially in the movie business, in the last 5 years in France. So I think we are not. It's not such a big problem, but still we are far away from parity, really. But I think the main problem is in writing, because it doesn't make sense. Writing is very feminine. When I was the showrunner of Saint-Tropez, Sous le Soleil, it was romantic, it was melodramatic, but it was mainly romantic. And for me, it was my feminine part, because of course we all know that we have half of us is feminine and half of us is masculine. And I used my feminine part to work on that, and because probably it was a mystery for me, you know. And I think it's the same for you when you work on some shows that are more masculine, or sometimes you have characters that you feel very close to you because they are women.
So, are you saying, Pascal, that you don't really need women around you if you have that feminine part in you?
Oh yes, we do.
Thank you.
We need women everywhere, of course, but especially writing, I think it's obvious for me. Writing is more feminine because it's on writing series is about characters. Movies are more about men. Still now, most of the.
So, are you saying that men should stay directors and that women should stay behind the scenes writing? Audrey, do you agree with that?
No, but it's actually the case. You know, it's been traditionally seen that women were writers. I think there is no shortage of women writers, but there is a shortage of women directors, because it's difficult to even, especially in TV, because on my show we would have loved to have a woman director, and it's tough to find the right person. And I agree with you on the fact that you know, the best example of that is Flaubert and Madame Bovary, and Flaubert was a man and he wrote a beautiful character of a woman. I think I don't consider myself a better writer of women, especially, but it's closer to home on certain topics, on certain issues, as the issues you address in your show, the cable women, I don't know the title in French, les filles du téléphone, voilà.
Teresa, how Teresa, how do you go about writing your female characters? Because you have to struggle with your husband sometimes, who is also your partner, your professional partner. You told me that sometimes he wanted to be romantic, and you said, no, that's not the way.
No more. Yeah, because we have in the audience in Spain in TV is mostly female audience. So if you want to have a success series, until now, because now the rules are changing, but you can focus on the female audience. So the tendency when Ramon writes is that he draw the women as romantic, heroine, but romantics and more victims of some situations. And when I start work with him more and more, I asked to tell some stories stronger. What happened about the woman now is not the woman before. And we want to speak about fights and sex and passion, not only about heroes who came to a love story or to involve us in an amazing dance. So in that way, because of course I'm a strong woman, so my character is strong. So the things that I'm asking is only to connect with my generation. I have a lot of friends, and also my mother is ready to see other stories. So the twist is to offer and to connect now with the new generation. Of course, I can imagine the adolescent. If you are talking about like Disney story, maybe you can lose the opportunity to still have it on the TV side.
Let's see a bit of your work from Las Chicas del Cable Girls.
Las Chicas del Cable mixed with the Velvet is an example about how we travel on time, because we go to the past to tell claims that is still working nowadays.
Shall we see the video now?
Buenos días a todos. Hoy hablo en mi nombre y en el de miles de mujeres silenciadas.
No sé con qué clase de mujeres trata, pero yo no sé como ellas. Así que no vuelvo a tratarme así. A veces las mujeres dejamos que nos conviertan en seres débiles y vulnerables, cuando la realidad es que no lo somos en absoluto.
Mira, una cosa te voy a decir. Todavía no ha nacido el que me diga a mí que no. Gracias, chicas. Por la amistad y por el amor.
Sea la decisión que sea la que tomes, que sea por ti y no por nadie más.
Por las nuevas chicas del cable. Sí. Chin, chin.
Es que yo también tengo mis metas y también tengo mis ambiciones. Tú sabes lo que nos cuesta a las mujeres llegar hasta donde yo he llegado.
No compita conmigo, por el favor de Carlos. Tiene muchas posibilidades de perder.
Habrá quienes digan que somos unas alborotadoras, unas rebeldes, pero no buscamos venganza. Buscamos justicia.
Well done. Pascal Breton, are these characters you could have invented?
Oh, definitely the new television or the new series coming from the last 10 years, cable, pay TVs, and more with the platforms, is looking for new shows first, new characters. So obviously what we lack are great feminine characters who have a strong, very strong character. So that's exactly what they all look for, because it's their audience, younger generations, which of course have a different attitude, because they are feminine attitude are stronger in the younger generation. And so it's exactly what they look for. And plus, it's what we didn't see in the last 30 years, because of course there were more police and crime series, very dark and very masculine.
You yourself have been very criticized for your machismo on Marseille. Can you explain what the problem was?
On the first season only. But on the first season, it's true that I wanted to be, in a way, quite close to what is the reality of politics. And politics is extremely violent with women. I know this world. I was 30 years ago, I was involved in politics, and I have many friends in politics. They are extremely aggressive. sometimes even more than aggressive. We know some cases, of course, especially in France, but everywhere. So I wanted to show that. And it's funny because, of course, I showed it in a way that was not very nice, you know, like men really being really bad with women, especially on sex attitude and harassment. And it was funny, of course, because people said, well, it's not nice. No, it's not nice. It's politics.
Fleur Pellerin, how do you react to that? When you see Marseille, for example, do you feel it's like real life or that it's machistic?
So I was not involved in local politics, so it was probably a bit different from what I experienced. But when I look, for example,
being
when I
Minister for Culture was probably really easy and peaceful.
No. But when I watch Baron Noir, or when I watch House of Cards, or when I watch Borgen, for example, they all show in very different ways that violence that is, you know, that you experience when you're in politics. So it's true. But I can understand the dilemma when you're a producer or when you're a screenwriter, between, you know, just showing something and sometimes, you know, replicating some models, that representations that people have in mind, and then being accused of showing a bad image of women, or of the position of women. And you know, sometimes you want to showcase it, and you want to show it in a series just to criticize it. So it's difficult, you know, if you want to talk about this issue, to know exactly what's the best way to do it, and you will probably anyway be criticized, whatever choice you make. But I think, for me, TV series are a great opportunity because, on the one hand, and it's very true in France, what Audrey was saying, is that we, since the 60s, since the new wave, since the Nouvelle Vague, we have this sort of fascination for directors. And what strikes me is when I talk with producers or creators of TV series, they all tell me that the most important person in the TV series is the writer. And sometimes you have one writer, one showrunner, and you have different directors. So maybe for, you know, in TV series, it's the place where writers can take the power, really. And because we have a lot of women writers, maybe that's a good opportunity for women writers. And I think there are very interesting characters, female characters, in TV series right now.
Did you tackle that problem when you were Minister for Culture? Would quotas, for example, be a good idea?
No, I don't think so, because it's very, you know, I was really advocating and promoting liberty, and actually I did pass a bill that was, you know, in its first article proclaiming that creation is free. And you cannot, you know, imposing quotas would be in some way, even if the cause is good, it would be jeopardizing the freedom of creation. But I really think that, you know, anything we can do to promote the representation of women, more gender-balanced juries, or in schools, you know, trying to encourage girls to be to study and to be trained as showrunners, and we probably have a lot to do, and that's where politicians, you know, can have an influence. I wanted to do it when I was minister. I didn't have time to carry that out, but I really wanted to improve the training of showrunners and of screenwriters, and trying to encourage women and girls to engage in that sort of trainings would probably help, because you can see a difference when you have screenwriters, female producers, female buyers, and right now this profession in France is becoming more female. So I think it's a very interesting move, and we probably need to encourage that.
Audrey Fouché, do you agree with that, or would you appreciate a bit of help with quotas?
No, I agree with Fleur. I think imposing it is not a good way to go. I think it needs to be grown organically. I think it needs to start in schools. I totally agree. But what I would love to do is to replicate the way they do it in America, is that they hire young writers and then they train them year after year. And to me, it's the best way to do it, because it's very organic, and you learn on the field, you learn on the spot, and you learn doing it. And I think what we lack in France, because I was very lucky to go to the States and do that with Tom Fontana, that's how I learned. The thing is, I'm the only one. There was also another writer, Marie Roussin, but it was a very rare opportunity, and I'm very lucky to that I benefited from it. But I would love, on my show and maybe on future shows to start training young writers in that way. And I think that's a good way to go also.
Would you be ready, Audrey, to go back to the States to be able to work?
Right now, yeah. Oui. No, I'd love to, of course, but I think it's important and it's even more exciting to work in France at the moment because everything is up for inventing and it's a changing industry and we have so much to do right here in France and to promote that kind of model that I think it's more exciting to work in Paris and try to do that than to go to LA and it's I think it's also one of our responsibility to try to to try to do it at home and not run away abroad.
Fleur Pellerin, do you believe that these strong female characters are a kind of fashion at the moment, or do you believe that they're a kind of trend that we have to explore?
No, I hope it's not a fashion. I hope it's not. I don't think so, actually. And when you see the diversity of female characters right now in TV series, it's really amazing. And whether it be women who are victims in some way, like, I was very struck by Handmaid's Tale, for example, with a very strong woman character who's a victim of the system and of a male dominant society. But when you look at, I don't know, How to Get Away with Murder, Damages, so strong business women, if you look at historical drama, like I just saw Elias Grace with very strong, again, a woman who's a victim, but very strong women character. So I think this very strong characterization with very complex and sophisticated female characters is very interesting. And because there's big variety or big diversity of types of characters, I think it's really interesting. And I'm wondering why in the motion picture you don't have that many, interesting female characters. So I think probably TV series where you have time to create and to give density to your characters, I think it's a great place to explore and to develop, a very interesting female character. And that works as role models, whether it be, whatever the character is, I think it's important to have strong and interesting female characters.
Do you have an answer to that, Pascal Breton? Why don't we see these figures, these strong female figures, so much in cinema? Why do we see them more in series?
The movie business is shifting. Nearly 80% of the movie business is shifting now to superheroes and super productions with comic books heroes. So it's a completely different model where it's all about action. It's for teenagers mainly, and it's
so a woman is Wonder Woman.
Yes, and most of the heroes superheroes are still male. I don't know how long it will last, but obviously it's where they are, and maybe with virtual reality and going close to the video games, I'm afraid they will move in that direction, which is action, and this kind of very male attitude. In a way, it's good for us because we have much more room to tell the real stories of couples, of relationships, romance, sex, and also just life, the real life. And then I think, obviously, we need most of the heroes will be feminine because also the audience will be feminine. But it's where we have a big problem is why wouldn't it be mainly women that write it? It's obvious.
Teresa, do you feel you've got a responsibility to change society, to change that balance between male and female power? Do you have that in mind when you write Las Chicas del Cable, for example?
I know that in that case, Netflix asked to have a strong female character, and they know that we were exploring these kind of characters before in Velvet, Grand Hotel. Always we speak about a woman that want to achieve different objectives far from them, and they can do it. So the curiosity in the Cable Girls and the surprise for us that makes to feel us very proud is Cable Girls now is a series that is working very well for young people, and also they share and they watch this series with their grandmothers. So it's very interesting to see how the grandmother remember in the 20s what's happened in their lives, and now are connected with their young people because something is not changing enough. So they are still being together in the same battle. So we try to do strong characters, of course, with some message, but also entertainment, of course. I think that all of us, we have a lot of tools now. We have a lot of information. It's a key, the education in kids about how they must respect one to other. But all the election that all the things or the decisions that we take from Bambú never comes from a question of sex. And avoiding that, I can tell that in Bambú Producciones there are more women working than men. Only looking for the best for that place. I'm sorry. In that case were women. So I think that it's not now, I don't think that because you are women or you are men, you're going to do it better. I think that we are going to do a rich TV if together we can respect to the other. Yeah.
Audrey, you are also working for Netflix at the moment, and did they ask you for a strong woman character? Was that part of your mission?
Yeah. I think they were interested in strong women character, and as Pascal and Teresa said, we haven't heard those voices before, and I think the industry is hungry for new voices. So it's very much a guideline. Yeah.
Do you feel also that responsibility that maybe you have power in your hands to change maybe the image of women in society?
It's a big responsibility. No, on my scale, yeah, I'm very careful as to the way I portray my female characters. There is a great quote by, I don't know, you know Shonda Rhimes, you know, the great American showrunner, and she said one time, why do you write... why are your female characters so interesting and so smart? And she said, what's the alternative? Weak, silly characters? You know, it's true, and it helps to think in terms of what's the alternative. And I think that the women around me, my friends, my mother, are interesting, smart, courageous, brave people. And I think I'm more realistic that way.
Have you ever had, all of you, discussions maybe between you saying, oh, to another author, you can't write this female character like this, you know, she's too soapy, or she's stupid, stop it, you know, she's not waiting for her Prince Charming, she's, you know, she has to battle.
I even sometimes do it myself, you know, and I'm very...
You correct yourself?
Yeah, because we are based in stereotypes, you know, we grew up with them, so sometimes even me as a woman...
Which ones?
I don't know, the fact that we are kind of sometimes, you know, there's a Bechdel test, you know. Do you know about this test? It's a test that is determining if a movie is feminist or not by judging if two women can have a conversation without mentioning a love interest, for example. And I'm very careful, you know, to do that, to make women not revolve around the topic of love interest, that they have their own interests, their own goals, their own motivation, that they have professional ambitions.
In one of the series you talked to me about, I Love Dick, the main character tells her husband that she's going to have an affair with this other man, and he says, oh yes, fantastic, tell me all about it. Is that one of the things that you can imagine evolving, that relationship, that love relationship between men and women in the years to come?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic as an example, because it moves away from the stereotype of the affair, for example, and it's fresh. I mean, story-wise, and I think we both are primarily interested in stories and in good stories, it's a story I haven't seen yet. So I think it's a very good starting point.
I think also that sometimes all of us, like before, we had the same reference of happiness. And suddenly you can understand that not all the women are looking the same, not we need to follow like the same steps that others. Maybe being alone, you are so happy. Maybe without kids, you are so happy. Maybe you can imagine to have an affair, I don't know. So before the women must follow the steps that maybe their grandmother drew. And this is good, this is bad. And now the things good and bad is the things that make you be happy or not if you are not disturbing others.
Pascal Breton, does that make sense to you?
The key issue also will be the Puritanism, because this is coming back much faster than we expected.
How do you feel that coming back?
Well, in every channel, especially the American ones, not in Europe, not in France, but not in Spain, not in France, not in Italy, not in France, but maybe South America, I don't know. You are practicing them a little more, so they have more traditions, I would say, like machism. But the real problem would not be that. It's really Puritanism. So, which is the main law of all the main American studios, and we feel it. We feel it in the shows. When you want to make it global, it needs to be. There is a good example, which is Harry Kéber. Harry Kéber was produced by an American studio with a lot of French talents, because obviously it was a French-Swiss property, and it's a story of a love story between a writer who is not very young and a woman who is in the room. She's in the book. She is 14, 15. So she became 16 in the script. And now they don't want to release it unless she's not 18, because and then it's a very different story.
It's
because
another story.
If the story was about a forbidden love, and if there is no forbidden love, there is no story. So you can stop the production, but it's already finished. So and that happens in many shows now. So that's where I think Europe will bring a lot, because
why Europe?
Well, most of European shows are much closer to a modern sense of
a modern sensibility on this.
Sensibility, humanism, and all that. Italian, Spanish, French shows are more in that. Even Scandinavian shows more close to the reality we are living in this century, and I think we can bring a lot to the market, because we bring something that is much closer to what will be our world. You know, this Puritanism is like any kind of old religion. It's old.
Another interesting phenomenon is how social media sometimes correct scenarios. That happened on Game of Thrones, for example, after one of the rapes. A lot of people on Twitter said, this is not correct, this is a rape, you can't show that. And then in the other episodes of Game of Thrones, they were very careful to correct that. Are you careful to what people say on Marseille on the social media? Do you sometimes correct some of the scenes or some of the characters because of that?
We were not really careful because we took a lot of risks. We were really politically incorrect. And I wanted that because I thought, this is new, this is a new show, I want to be very politically incorrect. But it's true that in the second season, both us and Netflix said, well, we won't do that again because people don't understand what we wanted to do.
Are you thinking of a particular scene?
Well, many scenes, like all the very aggressive scenes between, especially this guy played by Benoît Magimel. You know, Benoît Magimel is a kind of serial fucker, I would say. You know, he could absolutely fuck everybody around, men and women. And that was the character. We wrote him this way. And some characters I like that.
Inspired by French politicians?
Yes, of course. I know some of them.
Not me, huh?
So that was that was exactly what we wanted to do. And of course, we realized that people didn't really understand that. But the audience did in the end.
In our case, we take care, with Netflix especially, take care about the media and the social media. And some arcs of some characters in Las Chicas del Cable, we adapt a little to the contemporary time. So one woman who wants to be man, suddenly one of the girls feel like she was being a man always, but she's inside the wrong body. And this kind of the material, we are very sensitive about what's happening right now with this.
Coming back to you, Teresa, you managed to become a powerful showrunner in Spain, and you say you were not confronted to men directors, but were you helped in your career because your professional partner was your husband, and did he help you raise as a showrunner? Yeah,
I think that if your partner respects you as Ramon respect me, all this industry respect me.
But if you had been alone, maybe it would have been more difficult?
In my case, it was different because I was not a screenwriter. So when I started producing, I was not a showrunner. So I cannot bring one idea with the pilot or the Bible. It was the Ramon's idea. So I started writing after, like 5 years ago. So for me it was easier because I was producer and the networks worked with me before as producer, and after they don't ask me why you're going to write right now. So for me it was for sure a help that beside me was a very talented man and a very important person who respect women as he did and he do. Probably it would be different in other way, but I don't have a lot of colleagues of producers, women in Spain. We have a lot of directors, head of networks.
Who are women?
Yeah, women, but not the same profile as I have. So, of course, I know that the new generation in the university always asks to be new producers, and maybe I can be a reference for them. So they're not going to have problems because someone do it before. In my case, I didn't live, or I don't have any bad experience in my industry.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Teresa.
Thank
you, Fleur. Thank you, Audrey. And thank you very much, Pascal. And thank you to you all for listening.
Thank you.